Okay, Tim, so we just watched Foolproof, which was your choice, with Ryan Reynolds from 2003. By the way, he was very young. Very young back then. Was that before Van Wilder or after Van Wilder? It was after Van Wilder, right?
Maybe, I don't. It might have been the same time.
Right around the same time.
I think it was when he was just getting noticed more and more. Because I know he's in that TV show, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and that kind of like...
See, the crazy thing is that when you told me that, I had no idea that Ryan Reynolds was actually in that show. I know that show was super popular back when it was on.
Because of him.
Was it because of him?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was a TV star before he became a movie star.
Yes.
I actually didn't know that. All right, so why was this movie special to you?
So, not that it was, say... special per se.
Okay. Well, why did you bring this movie to the table then? If it's definitely not special to you.
Well, not that it's not that it's crap. Right? That's why. No. Right. Well, I was working at a video store and they were going out of business, so I found this one just randomly. I was like, Ryan Reynolds. Okay, cool. Looks good. So when I watched it, I was just like, I've never heard of this. Like, this is a great movie. It's one of those kind of movies you can watch over and over again. So I guess that's why it's slightly special to me. Well,
let's tell everyone, start with what it was about. Because I'll tell you, it was kind of obscure. I had never heard of it before.
Right.
Never seen the cover for it. I don't really know what...
And that's what I was... Yeah.
So what is it about? What's this movie about? Let's just explain to them what this movie's about.
So Foolproof has a meaning is there's three friends who went to kind of university together, but then they discover that they kind of have
two guys
similar...
and a girl.
Yeah.
And
a bar in one of the scenes.
There we go. Yeah, something else.
Donuts in one of the scenes. No pizza in that one. But they decide they have common interests. But what they do is they decide to literally create these foolproof heists of major corporations or like diamond wholesalers, banks, or this, that, and the other. And they finally pinpoint the one where they have every step.
So wait. So they make these foolproof plans. Do they ever execute on these things?
No, that's the thing, is their game is never to actually do that. It's just, if we did, would we have the perfect plan?
And they actually have fun doing it.
And they just, it's like a game to them, and they
like
say it specifically.
Gotcha. So like you would go play Dungeons and Dragons, I would go play baseball, they go play robbery.
I play baseball a little too, just nobody wants me to play. Like, you're a nerd, but I'm a sports guy. Thanks, dude. No.
Bro.
Yeah.
Hey, I played Magic the Gathering for many a year, bro. So I don't know. I've never played D&D, but I would be against it, by the way. So anyway, bring me to one of your D&D parties and we'll get this going. Anyway,
back to the movie.
Bring it on. So Ryan Reynolds is in the new Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh God. Don't even.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
All right.
It'd be terrible. Well, I don't know. It might not be. With him in it, might be pretty good. I don't know. Strike that.
Was the last Dungeons and Dragons movie good?
It was garbage.
Who was in it? What was it about?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about Foolproof.
All right.
Talking about Foolproof.
Back to where we were going. All right, Foolproof.
That's why it's so special to me that it's not Dungeons and Dragons.
They made some foolproof plans, some robberies. They never executed.
But a crime boss or whatever they call him, I don't know.
Somebody breaks into their apartment and steals one of the best ones, the brand new one that they have.
Yes.
And then that person does the job.
Yes, correct.
And then go ahead.
Well, now they're culpable for robbery. And he comes along and goes, by the way, your plan was amazing. Here's
this
your
mob
pay.
boss guy.
The mob boss guy.
Who stole their plans, obviously.
And he goes, now I need you for a bigger job.
Spoiler alert. Post-spoiler alert. Let's just put it that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So I need you for a bigger job. And then they're like, what the hell? No. And he goes, okay, I'll just take your plans with all your fingerprints on it to the police, etc., etc. So you put two and two together, they obviously go do the job.
All right.
It's just a fun ride. There's certain specific reasons why, as a movie, I like it, though.
So it did have kind of an Ocean 11 vibe to it, where like the bad guy or was that Ocean's 12? Which one was it? I don't remember. But it was like the bad guy's like, oh, well, I got you. Now you have to go do a robbery for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was that type of thing, And these people had never actually done one because it was just a game to them.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So they're like actually just playing Dungeons and Dragons. They're not actually dragon slayers.
Right.
So if you ask these people who are just Dungeons and Dragons players, if they asked you to go
legit,
and slay a legit dragon out there,
I probably could, but But the reason why I say that is because, if I know it so well, and that's the cool thing about this movie is they show them literally training, and they add the comedy, and they're like, yeah, you got 1 minute to get down this hallway. So Ryan Reynolds is running back and forth. Right, yeah. To test how long is this hallway.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's like they get the training, lock picking and all this stuff. They just go through the full gamut. So they're pretty much like, well, we're foolproof. Like, we can do this. That's what we've been basically studying for these past
Gotta hold
years.
my breath for a certain amount of time to be able to do this, whatever, part of the robbery or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they actually train themselves to do it. I forgot about that aspect of it, that they actually have to, they actually been training themselves to do these things physically as well, but they never actually fully execute.
Right. They always stop before say the night of. So, the difference between a thief and a robber. A robber will mug you, take your wallet, but a thief is literally going to empty your whole bank account out, make you destitute, etc., but he's going to take months or if not years. Such the difference, that's
gotcha.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
What did you think of it?
I liked it. So it's a fun ride, but at the same time, I found myself trying to figure out what was going to happen. You know what I mean? As an audience member, you're like, where is this going? Where is this going? And I will say that they did some things really well with that, keeping you on your toes. As predictable as I expected it to be in certain parts, it actually subverted my expectations. And one of the biggest parts at the end subverted my expectations altogether. So
nice.
That really actually... So, like you said earlier, it did its job. Yeah. You know what I mean? It absolutely did its job. And I enjoyed it. I would definitely watch it again. Have a couple people over on a fun night, have some pizza, and just pop it on.
And that's why I liked it.
Very fun film.
Didn't know what it was going in, then watched it. But the things that I did like about it were certain character quirks, like for instance, or reasons why the director did a shot or something. So, for instance, when Ryan Reynolds is hyper-focused, they zoom in, extreme close-up on his eyes. And they don't just do it once. They do it a few times. And I love when they do that. Because in some movies, they have this really cool moment for a character, oh, I really dig what this character's doing. And it's just one time. And And you're like, oh, that's dumb. He could have done it there, and it would have been so, hyper-focused.
Good,
yeah. But they do that with every character, so every character's different, but they fit their place proper. And it's just, I don't know, I just thought it was a good kind of a team comedy, team movie, and character development. The arcs worked. Yeah, it was good action comedy. Yeah. Kind of an adventure comedy, That's a better way, I think, and more of adventure comedy is a better way to put it. There was a lightheartedness to it. Definitely. It didn't take itself too serious. Mm-mm. And especially you can gauge that in the fact that main characters never actually did one of the robberies until they were forced to do one of the robberies. And that's kind of where... And even they play off of that teasing, what if we do? Why don't we go do more? Right. But then they use that to their advantage in certain situations. It was a smart movie, too. Yes. And I will say, at the beginning, I was like, wait, they plan these robberies and then they don't do them? Oh, yeah, right. I was like, what is happening? You know what I mean? So that in itself seemed like a bit of a crazy premise to me, but it was fun. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it was super fun, and I mean, maybe it's not my idea of what I would do for fun, but then again, what's that sport in the Olympics that they do where they curling? Oh yeah. I also don't enjoy curling either. Right. So I'm planning a robbery. Maybe it's an Olympic sport. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. But if that's speaking of that though, speaking to that. That's what almost made it better, because if they were robbers, then it's kind of okay, they're just going to rob something. And it would have been a predictable... More predictable, You're absolutely predictable. You're absolutely right. Right. Yeah, I liked it. I thought the dynamic between the characters was cool, too. Yes. I mean, they played it very, very well. The dynamic of the movie played really well within the dynamic of the characters played really well within the dynamic of the movie itself. Yes. There's consistency, and that's what I like. The director, he was the writer, so I think he had this in the back of his mind, the reasons why. There's consistencies to everything. And there's little foreshadowings to other things. And just like I was saying before, too, just as far as a blanket
kind of consistency observation goes, one of the things that I appreciated about it is that there was drama in between the main characters, but the movie itself had this like overtone of lightheartedness, and even as tense as it got between the characters, that still played. It still was like not so like, it wasn't so like off balance. The characters that the drama between the characters didn't set the movie off balance and have like a negative tone.
Kind of like in some it's like in some movies you'll have the appearance of a threat, but then you look at it and you go, they're not gonna die.
Right.
Whereas this one, you're like, no, they very well could. Right. They very well could go to prison. They very well could, get shot or whatever could happen. But they play to that kind of way that, it's more of a lighthearted, like the Goonies or something, adventure story. Right, exactly.
And exactly. And that's why it would be more of an adventure comedy.
Definitely.
And more of like one of those types of like an Indiana Jones type of a feel. And I don't want to like, throw it in there with that.
No, God.
But all I'm saying is that it had that lighthearted feel. It had that playful, yet, hey, there's consequences here, but we're playful, we're just going to have a good movie. Okay.
Like, my thing is, though, in a way, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I get it. You got like Raiders of the Lost Ark, probably one of the greatest movies.
I'm going to make two comparisons here.
Yeah.
Night and Day, Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz.
Okay.
A movie that was a lot of adventure, but it didn't take itself too seriously. It was cheeky and funny, and it played on it. This Means War with Tom Hardy and Chris Pine. Chris Pine. Those two movies, very, very reminiscent, are very in the same vein. If you like those movies, you'll like Foolproof.
Nice.
It's that type of fun action adventure, doesn't take itself too seriously, throws just the right amount of comedy in.
And so my question, though, is I was gonna say is
sorry I didn't interrupt you.
No, I totally agree.
I still want to forget. Sorry.
No, that's fine. We're talking about the same thing. So, but the idea is like to compare, say, this one to a Raiders of the Lost Ark, which also has that adventure. It has comedy. It does have a little more terror, maybe.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah, that Kali Ma Shakti Day fucked me up when I was a kid.
Right. But like, why do we hail that one compared to this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just makes me think like. Because this was an enjoyable movie. I'll watch this multiple times, just like I'll watch that.
It's a definite
multiple times. So,
absolutely.
But there's got to be something. It's so weird to think about. Maybe it's the cinematography. Maybe something's just not right. But I was like, but this one, it got a kind of a poor rating, pretty average. But like, I was like, why? It
was an indie film. I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't a studio movie. I mean,
and so because they got Ryan Reynolds was in it, he was just getting into stardom, probably. You know what I mean?
That was funny.
But because he's just a good actor. So
it was a solid film, dude.
Yeah,
I would definitely watch again.
Nice.
All right, so what were some of your favorite moments in this movie? You brought it to me. It's it's something something a little special to you, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Foolproof and Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, it's Dungeons and Dragons is foolproof.
There you go. I didn't expect that.
There you go. I kind of hit on it before with the director and how like his continuity of character and like for instance the close-ups of Ryan Reynolds when he's focusing, or he did this little character thing and when he's telling somebody not to be stupid, he goes think, and he puts his hand to his head. He doesn't just do it once; he does it multiple times.
Yeah, it develops a character. It develops consistency.
Or the one guy smokes and he has a bad lighter. You know what I mean? Or they have a car and it's terrible.
Right.
So it always breaks down.
And you got the key. You play the same thing.
Yeah, and you get this key phrase, nice effing car, Rob, But I think that's one of the things that I like the most about it. They have that continuity and that character quirk that they're always going to do. You're guaranteed, he's going to do this. Oh, he's going to do this. And it just hits.
Because you know the character.
You know the character.
Right.
And then you decide, like, you're developing, or you're, what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean? You're kind of connecting more with
yes, and that's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. And that leads to more of a relationship with the character, more of a investment in the character, and to be able to go, I'm going to be relating to this character, whether it's the girl, whether it's Ryan Reynolds, whether it's the mob boss.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to relate to whatever character you're going to relate to. But here's the thing. You have to develop these characters enough before you jump right into story. See, that's the problem. Here's I have an issue with some movies that are out that are out currently. And I'll tell you, there are certain movies that do that that don't do that don't throw you into a story and you care about none of the characters.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're supposed to be which character you're supposed to be following, which character is are you supposed to care if they die or not? You know what I'm saying? Like there's all kinds of movies like that. Now, I will say that what you said here with the character development, that leads to a positive relationship between the audience member and the movie. Mm-hmm. It leads to this positive relationship that I'm invested now because I got to know this character. They took 15 minutes of their time to make an entertaining introduction to these characters.
Yes.
Enough so that, man, I feel for them.
Yeah.
I'm ready to invest.
If something bad happens,
I'm ready to invest in their plight.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this movie did have that. And what you said about your favorite parts, your favorite aspects of this movie, definitely lend to a more of a relatable aspect for most people who are going to watch this movie.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
As a filmmaker or whatever, I think so, but maybe I'm wrong in part. But
I think you make a good. I'm just going off what you said and adding to that and saying that you make a good point. I think you make a really good point. I actually specifically liked the mob boss. Yeah. I did like his character a lot. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the actor's name who played him. He's in a lot of stuff. Really if you see it, you'll know. But
great actor.
He's always good. Oh, you know what I mean? He's consistent. You know. And then the other guy in Ryan Reynolds' crew, he played the kind of like
the hacker,
kind of the loner. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like kind of the one who was like shunned by the group almost or felt. Yes. He was shunned by the group, you know what I mean? Like they played it well.
Definitely.
You know, and I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the movie that I liked. Was him. I actually really liked I really enjoyed his character when he started to become loyal to the mob boss and stuff. I was like, dude, like this guy's on his game. And I started like you just said, it became a consistency. Like, dude, you're gonna keep trusting this fucking guy. He's showing you he's on the other side now. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. You know what I mean? Like, it led to that almost. You know, it's cool because you can play that both ways. You can play that to where, that's enjoyable to see our favorite characters do these things that we know they're capable of. But it's also can be like. It can play to a frustration aspect.
Why are you doing that?
Yes, and not just the good guys, but the bad guy. You can see the good guy turning bad, and you're like, you can see that he's doing this, over and over, and he's now developing his own consistent, character traits, and there's an arc there, that I enjoyed very much. That I personally enjoyed his, transition from good guy to bad guy, and that's what really
movies, they don't have that.
And here's the thing. That I told you that the end was very unexpected to me. Yeah. A large part of that was because I was invested in that guy. Oh, wow. In that guy's character. Because I felt that way at times. Like when I've had close friends and I felt like, man, like the odd man I'm the odd man out here, you know what I mean? And then you see this, and like I said, you kind of you feel this like, oh wow, fuck, am I rooting for this guy to like be on the bad guys team now? Like fuck, and then the end comes and it totally led me down a road, took me down a road. It literally will make you feel for that guy. There's 2 or 3 times in that movie that like he sees something and you feel for him. Like you have a legitimate like sympathy. Sure. Empathy for what he's going through. Filmmaker does a good job of lending that to you instead of just having it pass by. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think that his character arc, his character, and the exposition at the end that included him was my favorite part of the movie. I think his storyline, was my favorite part of that movie. Nice. Other than the simple premise itself, of the fact that they didn't do the robberies, that was interesting enough to go, what is this movie going on?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, and it was really, that was what initially interested me, other than the comedy and the dynamics, with the story itself of moving forward. But just the simple aspects of that storyline itself, how these people get together and they do these, and they train for them, right. You know what I mean? And they never do them, that in itself was super interesting. And characters were great. Ryan Reynolds put on a good show like always, but there were really good things about this movie. I was
thinking that's one that that could get a sequel. Nobody would remember the first one, but kind of
right. That, it'd be funny too, because like
nowadays, like 20 years later,
there are like, like stories like that like have sequels, and that has like a very unknown prequel. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, going through all of that, establishing character continuity of the director, I mean, I would say that's slightly reason enough. It works as a good film.
That's right.
Is there anything else you can think of that? I compared it to like say a Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that, and you're like, well, this was just as enjoyable, or
it's
like the Goonies or something. But
right.
Is there a reason? Is it because Donner was involved with the Goonies and Spielberg, and it just
here's what it is.
Yeah,
it's not. It's nowhere near as iconic as the Goonies or Indiana Jones or things like that. That's why. That's more along the lines of why I brought up the This Means War and the Night and Day one, because those are less iconic movies.
Yeah.
They kind of fly under the radar. Both films kind of flew under the radar. They weren't huge studio.
Sure.
They didn't market them to holy hell. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't giant blockbusters. I mean, they were big enough. They were in the theaters. I saw at least This Means War in a theater.
Sure.
And I don't know. I don't remember seeing Night and Day in the theater. But all I'm saying is it had those aspects.
That makes
without
sense.
being iconic, because it was an indie film and it really didn't. I mean, really, to be honest with you, it was just a fun little indie movie. You know, it was a fun indie movie that really worked. And here's why I think it worked as a film overall, because all of the little things they did right, and that added up to one big correct thing that you watched.
Nice.
So they did all of the little things right. Like we said, we talked about the character consistencies. They talked about building the characters out.
Right.
We talked about the cool story and the cool aspects of story. You know what I'm saying? Like with the way that they do these things and they don't actually commit these robberies. To the way it develops into where they got their own stuff stolen and all the everything from story to the acting.
Yes.
Young Ryan Reynolds being funny, to the characters being great dynamic, to, like I said, all these little things that they did right added up to a movie that worked. Added up to a movie that completely worked. So from everything you see there, even the technically sound stuff that you see, because it's a technically sound movie too.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. I didn't see one thing or hear one thing that took me out of this movie. Sound was on point.
Yeah.
Filming was, cinematography, some of the camera angles were choice.
Yeah.
I thought were fantastic. You know what I mean? Like I said,
bad.
that's like I said, they did everything, all the little things they did right.
Brilliant.
In an indie film, if you do that in an indie film, especially like this, and you get good actors and a good story, those were some of the things they did right. Good story, good actors.
Sense. That makes absolute sense.
So for me, that's why it worked as a movie.
The funny thing is, and this is going to be a pun, but I think Indiana Jones was also an indie film, in a way.
Right. Technically, it was an indie film.
Sorry.
No worries. All right, so what did you think of Dungeons and Dragons? I mean,
that movie's
I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm gonna watch Dungeons and Dragons and let Tim know if it's as bad as he thinks it is.
It's terrible.
What did you guys think of Foolproof? Let us know in the comments. We love you guys. We'll see you guys next time.